One quiet afternoon, near the edge of the woods by the Sawani River, a little fawn wandered alone. It was frightened, looking everywhere for its mother, but she was nowhere in sight. Its thin legs shook with weakness, and its big eyes were full of worry. A soft cry escaped its mouth, carried away by the gentle wind. Suddenly, the fawn slipped and fell into the rushing river. The cold, muddy water pulled it away from the shore in an instant. The small body spun around in the whirlpool, helpless against the strong waves. It kicked and struggled, but its legs were too weak. Its wide eyes filled with fear, its mouth opened to call for help. Water poured into its belly, its ears trembled from the cold, and it could hardly breathe. The poor fawn was exhausted, sinking deeper, almost giving up hope. Then by chance, the current pushed it close to a floating tree branch, but there was no one around to help. On the riverside road nearby, a young man named Lucas Bennett was driving his blue convertible. Beside him sat his loyal dog, Bear, enjoying the fresh air. Suddenly Lucas heard a faint, desperate cry coming from the direction of the river. He quickly pressed the brakes, the car screeched, and he frowned. Listening carefully, the strange sound worried him. Bear also lifted his head, ears standing tall, and gave a low growl. It was as if the dog also knew something was very wrong. Lucas jumped out of the car and ran towards the riverbank. The water was wild and dirty. Swirling in circles, he shouted loudly, "Is anyone there?" But only the roar of the river replied. Bear barked sharply, then, without waiting, ran ahead. Lucas followed, his heart racing. And then he saw it. A tiny creature was floating helplessly in the middle of the stream. "Oh my God, it's a baby deer!" Lucas cried, panic rising in his chest. Before Lucas could move, Bear jumped straight into the rushing water. The brave dog swam strongly, splashing water to both sides as he cut through the current. His eyes stayed locked on the struggling fawn, full of determination. The little deer kicked desperately, thinking a predator was coming, but Bear gently stretched out his neck and softly held the fawn by the skin of its neck. He was careful not to hurt it, keeping its tiny head above the water so it could breathe. Step by step, stroke by stroke, Bear moved against the current, carrying the fawn towards safety. Lucas waited on the riverbank, kneeling, arms ready. Finally, Bear reached the shore. Lucas quickly leaned forward and lifted the shivering fawn into his arms. Its fur was dripping, its ears shook, and its small body trembled from the cold. Lucas took off his coat and wrapped it tightly around the weak little animal. Bear climbed up from the water, panting hard but standing proudly, eyes still fixed on the deer as if protecting it. "It's okay, baby. You're safe now. We got you just in time," Lucas whispered gently. Lucas placed the fawn in the back seat of his car and dried it carefully with a towel. Bear sat in the front seat, turning his head every few seconds, checking on the little one. Back home on his grassy green hill, Lucas carried the deer inside his small wooden house. He spread a soft towel beside the warm fireplace and laid the fawn down gently. Bear lay right next to it, his big body curled like a shield, refusing to leave its side. Lucas warmed milk in a bottle and slowly fed the fawn, stroking its wet forehead. The tiny creature looked at him with soft, thankful eyes, slowly trusting the kind man. He decided to name her Dottie because of the white spots shining on her back. In the following days, Dottie grew stronger. She took her first shaky steps in the backyard, always following Bear like a shadow. Bear patiently taught her how to smell the earth, dig the soil, and listen to the songs of birds. Every morning, Lucas took Bear and Dottie to the park. The townspeople smiled warmly when they saw the strange little family, a man, a big dog, and a spotted fawn playing together happily in the grass. On cold afternoons, Dottie curled up in Lucas's arms while Bear lay close, like a big protective brother. They had become an unusual but perfectly harmonious family filled with love. 2 weeks later, Lucas knew it was time for Dottie to return to the wild and find her real mother. It was a hard decision, but he knew it was the right one. One sunny morning, he put Dottie and Bear in the car and drove back to the Sawani River. Dottie sat quietly, her ears twitching as if listening for something familiar. When they reached the riverbank, Lucas opened the door for Dottie to step out. Bear sniffed around the grass, while Lucas searched the forest with hopeful eyes. Then, In the distance, a large female deer appeared, standing still at the edge of the trees. She didn't run away. Her big eyes were full of worry and hope. Dotty froze. Her tiny body stiff with surprise, then suddenly ran forward. Lucas held his breath, watching. Dotty stopped for a moment, then pressed her head against the mother deer's chest. The mother gently licked Dotty's head, trembling as if to say, "You are mine again." Tears filled Lucas's eyes as he witnessed the reunion. Bear gave a soft bark, almost like a goodbye. Lucas sighed, smiled and nodded, whispering to his dog, "We did the right thing, Bear." Dotty turned her head one last time, looking at Lucas and Bear with eyes full of gratitude and love. Lucas waved and said softly, "Go live like a real wild deer." Then the mother led Dotty into the forest, their shapes slowly disappearing behind the trees. Lucas and Bear stood silently, the sunlight dancing on the calm river. It was the end of one chapter, filled with kindness, hope, and a friendship that would never be forgotten.